There she is. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good evening.
Yeah, I'm doing very well. So it's you are 3 hours ahead of me. So it's night for you already. It's 9 p.m. So my understanding is upstate New York. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're in the Mid-Hudson Valley, where I moved in 2008, actually, to start working at farm animal rescues.
Oh, great. Oh, Bonnie Finn says hi.
Oh, sweet.
So, hi, Bonnie Finn.
Hi, Bonnie.
So, yeah, I actually went to college at Cornell in Ithaca. So I'm familiar with upstate New York and the Finger Lakes and all that. It's a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, we're a little more Mid-Hudson Valley. We're actually mid-upstate.
You're a little bit south of Ithaca and the Finger Lakes.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, further down. Yeah, below Albany.
Yeah, that's kind of mid-state. But it's all kind of called upstate. I think a little bit north of New York City.
Yeah.
So there is New York and the rest of the state, pretty much.
It's a big, beautiful state.
Absolutely, it is. And then we have Freedom Hill Sanctuary joining us, nice. And they'll be joining us. So Rebecca, really excited to join you. Of course, and to have you join us and join me today on this chat. You and I got to communicate over the last few months, and then you also joined us as a partner. And we really are excited about all the things that will be happening, some of which I was telling you about in the coming months, and then to working with you and with other sanctuaries from around the country and around the world in the coming months and years. So hopefully together we could make a bigger impact. Yeah. And one of the questions usually, and one of the things that I start with is, how did all of this start? I mean, starting the sanctuary, becoming vegan, when did it all started to click? And from the time it started to click to the time that you decided, okay, I need to start a sanctuary, what happened then and how long it took?
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, because the whole vegan journey, I mean, that started when I was 10 and I was at camp, taking care of, I actually discovered accidentally some chickens behind what was the mess hall, the lunchroom. And I was playing with them. They were the sweetest baby chicks. And I was from the city, and I rarely got to be in a beautiful place like the country, any nature. So it's been a long journey. I mean, it clicked for me, animal rights, immediately. But I lived in New York City, was a busy artist with day jobs, kind of a person. And honestly, I moved upstate in 2008. To kind of I thought I was going to make more music and become a hermit or something, and a recluse, and shun society, because New York City is an intense place to grow up. It's just very loud. There's no nature. I felt kind of starved, and my soul was kind of dying. And I happened to start working at animal rescues in the Hudson Valley, and I was always an animal lover, and I was already vegan by the time I got to the animal sanctuary. But to meet them in person is a whole nother thing. Like, it's interesting. I became one just out of sort of principle, ethics, all these things that were rising in my consciousness the more I lived. And but it was a whole nother thing to get to sanctuaries and work in them. And then it went to another level, and I can only say that chickens always seem to be the ones at animal rescues that got the least attention. I think there's many reasons for that. They are rescued in large numbers as flocks. I think avians, people have a harder time reading their faces. The faces of birds maybe don't connect and speak to people the same way the face of a sheep might, or a cow. There's a different vibe of sweetness from every animal. And so I just remember remember thinking, like even among people who love animals, there's like a hierarchy of who's important and who's not. And I met a rooster came in named Nellie, who actually had 2 deformed feet. And it was very interesting, Faik. Like, they didn't want him there. He was too much trouble. And his care was very, very elaborate. He couldn't be on hard surfaces. He couldn't, as a disabled bird, be integrated with other birds because they were afraid of his disability. It's a natural protective instinct they have. So I brought him home. I adopted him, essentially. And I just started caring for him and learning about him. And the more I did, the more I realized there was a void that needed to be filled. That even within animal rescue, even within, vegans, there are like different levels of indoctrination we have to challenge ourselves to break down. So that bird, Nellie, there was the birds I met at camp as a 10-year-old that made me want to not eat them. But as far as starting a sanctuary, to be honest, it was an accident, and because I was just responding to individuals who needed help and assistance and support. I didn't think, I'm going to become a rescue. I rented. I don't own land. I didn't at the time. And that seemed something for extremely wealthy people. And I was working at sanctuaries, starting at $11 an hour. So it wasn't a money-making field where you could even save up to buy property. I really think it was one of these things that it went of its own theme. It was moving forward as its own magical manifestation. I wish I could say I set out to do this, but it's sort of just about people following their intention, following their heart. And also I really have to thank the micro sanctuary movement, because that was an uprising revolution in the background that I didn't really know about. But then I finally got online. I was late to Facebook and I heard about it. And it was magical because I realized I sort of am a micro sanctuary. I'm paying for these vet bills. I'm passionately educating anyone who'll listen to me. I'm doing activism. I'm trying to teach about care. And so I really encourage people to go to Micro Sanctuary Resource Center, a wonderful, 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 amazing resource. Because what I'm very passionate about, besides rescuing and educating about these amazing citizens of the earth, as well, is like empowering people that you don't have to be wealthy to help someone. You can do something small. It matters to each one, just to that one rooster I brought home, it mattered to him. But you never know where life is going to take you. Absolutely.
No, absolutely. It's because it's not necessarily about a system. It's about an individual. It's not about an abstraction of an animal. It's about individual animals. And in fact, that is exactly the antidote, in my opinion, to the invisibility and the silence that shrouds animals in modern civilization. Is, I think, the biggest weapon for the animal agriculture industry and whatever other forms of animal exploitation out there is invisibility. I think if people cannot see animals, then when they go to the supermarket and they pick up some meat, it's not any different for them than the tomato. So the tomato was there in the field waiting for people to pick it up. So the animal was sitting there waiting for human beings to come and pick the animal up and for dinner. It's a completely different kind of situation. But I think, not just animals. Like, for example, people now, many people get surprised when they see the Milky Way. When they go out in the somewhere where it's dark and they see the stars. We are so far away from animals and from the universe and from everything than our ancestors were. They were so immersed, in a very abundant sort of existence, we'd like to look down on it, and it's kind of primitive. And I'm not so sure it's primitive sometimes when I really think about it.
Right.
So that does not really surprise me. That does not really surprise me. Does not really surprise me at all. And so you mentioned one thing, and also I would like to comment on that. You said the birds, the animals. Why birds in particular, chicken in particular, are harder to relate to? Well, for one, people don't let themselves to, because they think, well, I mean, cows, of course, are taken for granted. Pigs are taken for granted. But I think with chicken in particular, evolutionarily, they are farther away from us than mammals are. So with the mammal, we have a lot in common with them. There are, if you look at the ears in a sheep and you look at the nose, yeah, we try to pretend we are so special, but we really look a lot like them if we really want to think about it. And we do, of course, share a lot with chicken, but I think still it's a little bit more remote. So it's easier for people to sort of reduce them into objects that they can after that sort of abuse with absolutely no impunity whatsoever. So
yeah, I actually thought it was because they're a little more like giant puppies and cats. Like they have 4 legs. They're so that it's all arbitrary. As humans, we're so arbitrary about who we respect and who we don't, who we give rights to and who we don't. And I mean, that's the thing that makes me really sad. We don't even get each other as people. We abuse and exploit and oppress our own. So it's kind of asking an incredible amount of humanity to go, and yes, care about this chicken. But at the end of the day, I try to tell all my friends who are social justice activists, it's actually part and parcel to the same thing, and all the systems that exploit humans actually originated with non-humans. We just threw humans into the same prisons, incarceration, chains. So, for me, they're very inextricably linked. And, the cause of living sentient beings, I believe, a more loving culture, a more compassionate culture, a more just culture, a more inclusive culture can rise, but it's going to take such a revolution of consciousness. And I believe going vegan is integral to that. Like, if you want to change the world. Also, our food system is the heart of our culture, the heart of society. Food is like people's lives all revolve around a few things, and one of them is food. So if the system that's producing our food is based on prejudice and cruelty and violence, obviously we're really not gonna, we shouldn't really expect society to be able to get rid of those things for humans or anyone else. It's so, these things are all very connected, and I think any animal can be your sort of gateway non-human, the one that you meet that touches your heart. For me, it was I always loved all animals, but there has been this theme of chickens, and I don't even know why. To me, it's very deeply spiritual. Sometimes I wonder if I have like more avian DNA or something. I don't know why, but I looked in Nellie's face, this rooster, and he was literally trying so hard to communicate with me. He was in a stall at the sanctuary. He was standing on a little pillow that was like an island, because his feet hurt if he walked off that pillow, because his feet were so twisted and gnarled and messed up. And he honestly wouldn't be ignored. And that's a trait I love of roosters, is they really want you. And I think all animals do, but roosters have this bravado, like that they just throw themselves at a predator, to save everyone in the flock. And they really spoke to me as like wanting to be understood on their terms. And I think they achieved that, because I am with a chicken rescue. It's been an interesting journey, and to be honest, I'm very, very, very glad I want to talk about it, because I just feel very lucky.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, well, thank you very much for sharing it with us. And I just would like to remind our listeners. So this is Rebecca Moore, the founder of the lovely Institute for Animal Happiness in New York State, United States of America. And in fact, I see Mother Kleckers Micro Sanctuary has just joined us. So, hi. Hi. We'll be talking about quite a few things. And for people who are following us, please please follow, give a follow to the Institute for Animal Happiness, and then for followers who are not following us, please give also a follow to the Vegans Day, and we are here with Rebecca, and Rebecca has just been telling us about her journey from becoming vegan to animals and her particular love for chicken. And this is actually doesn't surprise me because I give you an example. So there is a sanctuary in California. It's one of our partners. Deborah Blum is the founder, and of course they have a variety of sanctuaries, but it's called Goatlandia, and goats are very central. And there is Rody Girl, also our partner in Texas, and Renee King, the founder. And there is this movie that just came out about her and her particular love for cows. So there are some sanctuaries that are more generally themed, and even the sanctuaries that are themed around a particular species. They, of course, welcome other animals. But it doesn't surprise me that some founders, they find themselves particularly called by a particular kind of animal for a particular reason. It doesn't surprise me, only because we get attracted to people because, well, there is something special about somebody, and it doesn't mean that we exclude other people, but there's something about a particular cause or a particular individual or a particular group that really attracts us or that draws our attention. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, and in fact, we were talking about chicken, and I think this is very, very important. You brought up something very important. They are stereotyped as stupid, they're stereotyped as all kinds of things. And again, it is, so violence and exploitation come before, intellectual violence and stereotyping and prejudice does come actually after physical exploitation and domination. Mm-hmm. The same thing happened with colonialism. People from Europe did not go to conquer Africa because they were racist. They became racist when they conquered Africa. So because when you find yourself face to face subjugating people day in and day out, you have to tell yourself a story. You have to. And we human beings are creatures of mythology. We like to create mythology.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I understand what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. They never had no contact with people in Africa, then suddenly they became racist. Okay, let's go to Africa. No, they were just expanding and so they were just using violent subjugation. But in the process of subjugating people in Africa and other continents, they became racist. That's how racism came about. So in that process, initially you want to use force to take something from someone, but then eventually you take and then you want to justify it yourself. And I absolutely believe that human racism and other types of exploitation and domination certainly evolved from the way that we treat animals. I'm sure that the hunter-gatherers that lived in the African savannah thousands of years ago, they didn't have stories about birds being stupid, or quite the opposite. They had a lot of respect for them.
They had a lot of respect. Indigenous cultures, yeah.
Yeah, they understood.
Cultures have so much respect for animals.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are confusing knowledge about what birds and other animals are with the stories that we invented to justify to ourselves their subjugation. Mm-hmm. So the same thing with human beings, when they confuse stories that human groups invented to justify the exploitation and violence against another group with the reality of that group. One thing, knowledge can only come from curiosity and empathy. And we can't empathize, or we can't allow ourselves to empathize if you exploit someone. The same thing with animals. We cannot empathize with chicken and understand what they are. See that the expression that you were saying in the roaster's face, and with all the other individuals that you deal with in day out. If somebody's gonna exploit them, we don't allow ourselves to go to that place, because you can't after that. You can't. If there is nothing that is more undermining to injustice, in my opinion, more than curiosity and empathy. It really is, and that's why segregation and you don't want to interact with what people end up segregating, and when they would like to sustain some kind of inequality between animals, between humans and animals, or humans and humans, because contact brings in, or it triggers empathy and curiosity, and we want to go there.
It's easier to harm someone who you put distance between yourself and them to actually get to know them, and that's a massive problem across human cultures. But obviously, I think people don't realize that like in regular, even very high educational settings, so much mythology about non-humans is still prevalent as truth. I did tours at a lot of these animal rescues I worked at for like thousands of people over a 10-year phase, like literally thousands of guests. It could be hundreds and hundreds over a year. And I would have people, I remember there was I would ask the guests on the tour, like, how many people know how a cow gives milk? And literally there were people with PhDs. There was once a guy who was a heart surgeon, and when I explained to him that the cow had to be impregnated to have a baby, to lactate, the baby taken away, so that milk goes to people, he was stunned, and I couldn't believe somehow that bit of information had evaded him. And the interesting thing for me is I didn't get to go to college. I was working right out of high school, had some trouble fitting in my high school, so I kind of went to an alternative educational high school. So I don't consider myself someone, I don't have a higher education, but it just proved to me in doing these tours that anyone can you can self-educate, and a degree doesn't necessarily, I have great respect for people who really pursue higher education. I'm not knocking that, but it was humbling for me it was empowering for me and humbling at the same time to go, you have something to teach. And I think there's a lot of ordinary people out there who, this kind of education is hard won. It was by working with the animals themselves. It was by asking questions. It was by seeking to work at organizations, because it wasn't taught in schools. And a lot of times it's not taught in the highest educational settings. It's weird. It's like we still want to believe that animals are dumber. And my mother once told me, she's a wonderful educated person, but when I was little and I asked her, why do we hurt farm animals? She said, I don't think they feel pain the same way we do, which is heartbreaking. I think a lot of people in different times believe that, but it still it persists to this day. So we have to educate. And as a little, you've been very kind and complimentary about us, but I want to reiterate, we're a very small sanctuary. We're a micro. We started in a rented backyard. We did just move now to a place we can call home, hopefully for a good long time. But, this is very much a passionate, personal project, but now there's a team here to educate. So people with, small spaces, you can still join the sanctuary movement. But, the focus for us is much more on getting out into community. We have a free vegan food program. We do Hudson Valley Veg Fest, and I hope that will come back.
That's great.
So there's other things people can do if you're not a landowner, or if you're not, I just want to encourage people not to sit and wait. There's always a way to take part and help and become an advocate, because this education really needs to get out there.
Absolutely. And I would like to follow up on something that you said. I'm a university professor, and I can tell you something. I cannot agree more with what you said. And there is something that I distinguish between formal education and wisdom. You can be the most educated. In fact, the people who who made the hydrogen bomb. Are some of the most educated people in human history. But still, they made the hydrogen bomb, and they made all the things that are making our whole existence in question. So wisdom is one thing. Formal education is another thing. Formal education, at the end of the day, it really is just about certification so that you go into the workforce. It's not about making you deeper thinker. It's not making you self-aware, or not necessarily. You might, you could take those skills of reading and go in and educate yourself in that sense. But you can't do that. Anybody can do that. I absolutely don't believe. I don't make that connection between formally educated and a wise person. I have seen enough that I know that they're totally different things. So what you said, that is absolutely important. Let alone having empathy. Having empathy is, I think is a completely also different story. And to me, that is part of emotional and spiritual intelligence. And I think spiritual and emotional intelligence are really, really, really undervalued relative to sort of transactional intelligence, where you do things and you get achievements and you do this and you do. The other one is much, much more valuable for society. And in fact, even Albert Einstein actually had a quote, something similar. He actually does believe that very, very strongly. He said it. I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but the point is that again, you're right on, and that's just a confirmation that your point is absolutely valid.
Also connected to that is, obviously, we know that it's probably hopefully changing a little now, but one of the big blocks to getting vegan info out and just the animal rights movement in general was the medical community only required doctors to take 4 hours of nutritional study, 4 hours to become a working physician. So the connection and understanding of real nutrition beyond 4 hours, that 4 hours was not really going to leave a lot of room open for new information to come in. So we're still dealing with myths like milk is good for bones, when we now actually, most of the studies pretty much confirm that it leaches your body of calcium. It doesn't aid in calcium absorption. So there's, our generation's especially grew up with these myths. It's really wonderful to see our generation and younger, everybody working to dismantle these
Absolutely.
that have persisted and harmed so many animals, so many. You can't eat trillions. There's not even a number, right? That are it's an incomprehensible amount of slaughter, and it's done so quietly. That is what really haunts me, this idea that we are a society, we've come up with a way of literally brutally slaughtering, like bolt guns and horrible mechanisms are in slaughterhouses. And yet, because it's behind closed doors, we've managed to hide it. And that should terrify every conscious person, that is possible. And if it's possible with animals, we know we do it with humans too. We know about police brutality and brutality in prison. So again, these things are connected. It's so important for people to care about non-humans, because if the veil of mythology is pulled away, it helps you see everything a lot more clearer.
Oh my God, it cannot be said more beautifully than that.
Thank you.
It cannot be said more beautifully than what you have just said. Very, 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 very true. It absolutely is. And the connection is absolutely that. I think it's really coming into the mainstream. I just read a National Geographic article just in recent months about the idea that the sentience of animals, and this is the next sort of major human intellectual revolution. People resisted the idea that the sun and not the earth was the center of the solar system back in the day. They thought it was the entire universe, but it's a different story. Now this idea that these sentient beings are here for their own purposes. They are as sentient as we are, if not more, in some respects, depending on what sentience means and all of that, is really coming. It's really coming into the mainstream. And you could see now the word vegan. It's all over the place. And I could bet, yeah, even in the last few years, I mean, now I go to Trader Joe's most of the time when I go to shopping. Every single time I see new vegan products, vegan products, and it just shows you how cultures. I mean, of course, they evolve slowly, but this has been a very, very rapid evolution for a cultural revolution. It was, I'm sure it was for quite a while. It looked like it will never become a mainstream thing. And
oh, I mean, if I went back to little 10-year-old me refusing to eat meat back in 1978, and then somebody could go in a time machine and say in the future there's going to be, whole vegan fast food joints and what is it? Reese's Pieces did a vegan peanut butter cup, things that you really wouldn't expect. I was aiming much lower in my lifetime, but obviously we want more for the animals, and sadly, because of animal export and factory farming starting to move to even poorer countries, which people should care about, and being foisted on poorer countries, there's more animals being killed than ever. So even though it's a strange point we're at, I think there's so much to celebrate, but we have to understand that the numbers of animals helped because human population, because of, again, a very, very broken food system. We have so far to go to see it translate to helping more animals. Not to be a downer, I feel like keep hope alive because, like I said, we've seen change in our lifetime. And, but I do think we all have to stay passionate and stay vigilant, celebrate that vegan peanut butter cup if you want, but there's work to do, so celebrate and then roll up because it's so much suffering. It's just an incomprehensible amount of suffering. And for many of us, it's unbearable to contemplate human suffering. It's also unbearable to contemplate a factory farmer chicken suffering. It's no different. It's all, it's all unconscionable, and we should want our society to rise to something better. Yeah,
absolutely. And in fact, even though I absolutely wish for society to rise to that place, from a place of understanding and compassion, but even if society is selfish, even if we only care about humans, we have to do that also.
Yeah,
it's a survival thing.
Yeah.
It's not simply the compassionate thing. It is actually the logical thing to do. Yeah. Even if somebody just only cares about humans, they have to become vegan just to save the humans for all kinds of reasons: the environment, the health, and forget about people who do it primarily for animals. For me and you, we started it was a connection to the animals, and then of course we embrace the other aspects of it, and I'm glad they exist. Yeah. But that's not the primary thing. That's not my primary focus. But I'm just glad that it helps with health. And that it helps with the environment. But for other people who think primarily about the other thing, that is still in plenty of incentive. And the fact that there is this one solution to all these problems, and all these problems connect, tells you something. There is something really profound, something very profound going on here.
So. There is, and but it's also deeply troubling. For instance, we had to deal as a little tiny chicken rescue with avian influenza rising. It's been in other parts of the world. It had been in this country 2015, 2016, and it came back last year, and I believe the total was 50 million birds just in this country alone. That's terrifying when you run a bird rescue. And also we were losing the place where we lived, and we had developed a little biosecurity thing to keep the birds safe there. We had to move. We obviously had to dismantle that. It was really terrifying kind of year moving, where I didn't know if we'd lose all our birds, because on top of all that, the new property we found is adjacent to a wetlands, which is beautiful. It's incredible, but that would increase our potential risk. But when you contemplate avian influenza and the tragedy, I don't know if you were watching what happened in Italy in the last, I guess, 24, 48 hours, is a sanctuary was entered by police despite all these activists blocking the gates because swine fever was detected in the area. So they went in and they killed all the pigs. And despite these were healthy pigs, they had no illness, they were beloved pets. But just because the food industry and money was at stake for this industry, all the animals, when these outbreaks happen, every animal within a certain mile radius, is slaughtered. So it happened in California. There was a disease called Newcastle's disease 2 or 3 years ago, where it was found at one poultry farm. And then they cordoned off like a 3-mile radius and just went home to home gassing birds. And for some reason, this doesn't make the news, but there's a Facebook page devoted to people sobbing and watching as their birds were put in canisters and gassed. And so we were living in fear of this happening here. And I became stunned the more I looked into it. We did an educational forum. So again, this is something a small sanctuary can do. We could create a forum and hundreds of people could come online and learn. But it was devastating. The more I learned, I realized they claim they're doing this out of an abundance of caution to help people. But really what they were doing was protecting a huge, wealthy industry that depends on exploiting these animals, because there is vaccine for avian influenza. They won't release it because meat would then test positive. Once they killed a bird that had been vaccinated to not get this disease, the problem is the meat still tests positive for that disease. It would destroy it, and it would effectively shut down the poultry exports to other countries and a lot of the shipments of meat around our country. So think about how chilling that is. I want anyone hearing my voice to just think about that. This industry has more power than caring to protect your health or the health of all avians, wild birds. It's attacked condors. It's spread to mammals. They've had fox die, black bears die, cats started getting it, I think, in the UK. So this is a spreading problem. And rather than having the wisdom to just go, our breeding of these farm animals is endangering everyone, because it's basically the industry is a vehicle to spread the illness. And this is all for something you put in your mouth for 2 seconds and have a taste. And it's all for something that there's a vegan version of that you can put in your mouth and get the same taste. But we are such products of indoctrination as humans. Our minds, we get on that track. We don't want to change. Change is hard. It's uncomfortable. There's a lot of fear. I think we have a lot of fear about change. So for me, the chilling realization was, they don't care about the birds, I get that, but they clearly don't care about any of the neighbors around a poultry factory or any of the other animals. Or it's an industry having that much power should really terrify everyone, and they should understand what is guiding our society. What that is at core.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not surprising, the state of the world. It's from their fruits, you will know them. So probably the state of the world says a lot. So Rebecca, I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
As a micro sanctuary, in terms of volunteers, I know that for a non-profit organization, that the most important thing is receiving support. Usually, support for sanctuaries, the main two types of support come in the form of donations and in the form of volunteers. I actually volunteer myself at Animal Places, a sanctuary near where I live, about an hour away, and I just love going there. And it's a thing I recommend. Doing that, I find it incredibly soothing and empowering. Highly recommend it to everybody listening to us. Yeah. And then, and also in terms of donations, I would love to hear from you about all these two things. And in fact, I just want to mention, I encourage everybody to go to your website, Institute for Animal Happiness, and actually I made a small donation myself before this, just as a very, very, very small token of appreciation for you and your work. And then I would love to find more ways of getting involved, and even finding ways of becoming sort of involved on a more regular basis in terms of sponsorships. So please tell us more about that.
Oh goodness! I mean, of course, we'd love people's support, but I'm also a big believer, the one in your community who's doing this work and supporting them. But sometimes, to me, and I mean this wholeheartedly, it's not that we don't need money to operate. Obviously, we do. My partner has a job that's great, and and I work doing this full time. But up until about 4 or 5 years ago, I actually kept part-time work going. And for the first few years of doing this, I had a actually full-time job, but I just didn't have the population we have now. So, I was very big on finding ways to self-sustain. So, again, creating the Veg Fest for our area was a way I could raise funds also. It was twofold that positive for the area, because it brought vegan education, a big vegan event, to an area where there hadn't been one before. There hadn't been a Veg Fest before in our county and in our part of the Hudson Valley. And then, but it also served as our fundraiser. But I will tell people honestly what I just wish people would do is go forward and teach in your area. I mean, our sanctuary has to survive, but I joke that sanctuaries are the one thing that we'd love to be put out of business. We'd love to have no more animals to rescue. I love doing what I do, but I want to be clear to people that, how do I say this? It's still incarceration for the animals. It's still, they're still bred to have these problems, like egg-laying hens or Cornish hens are going to have all the physical struggles that they have because of how they've been bred. So my big call to action to everyone is, not in the literal sense, but in the educational sense, help us go out of business. Like, really go in your community and become passionate about, at work, at school, what you can do. And there's something everyone can do to help move this movement forward. And we'd love your support, but there's more and more micro sanctuaries out there, and people doing, I know what we did, thanks to Micro Sanctuary Resource Center. And also, I also want to plug Open Sanctuary Project, which is an amazing website that makes sanctuary level animal care available to anybody. It is finally all open source, and this is high level veterinary. So there's no more, when I started, it was like, what do I do? Your sanctuaries were even older than us. We're really starting from scratch and pioneering. But now there's this beautiful resource. So share these resources that help people learn about animals, understand them, learn about veganism, learn about animal liberation, learn about collective liberation, intersectionality, and how all these things work together. And that to me is really the call to action I want to make, because I can only rescue so many, and it's just reality. More people have to become involved.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And to me, that's why I started the project that I started and partnered with sanctuaries, to empower them and then to sort of embed them in the vegan economy, that the vegan economy supports them automatically. And it's twofold, education. So, and that's exactly, to me, it's this attitude that makes you so worthy of being supported. Just that attitude, just what you said. You know, because for you, the way that you prioritize animals, their well-being, education, making the society a more compassionate place, it's exactly that kind of attitude that makes what you are doing incredibly special, incredibly wholesome, incredibly worth of supporting. I personally would absolutely, in the foreseeable near future, actually, in the next few weeks, to actually connect with you, and I would love to adopt one of your animals, and if it's okay with you, for sponsorship. So. Oh,
that's amazing. And we haven't even set up a sponsorship program because, again, I started this, I was pretty proud in the beginning and just trying to do it off my day job, and people have been bugging me to set up a sponsorship program, and so maybe I will finally do that. I now have a wonderful team here. There's incredible women. My partner, Brian, is it started out as a lone thing, but there's now Brian, my partner, who also is with Lantern Books, so he's very, very devoted to getting vegan education out there. And then we have Miriam Chisholm on our staff, who is my best friend, and she's also like an incredible animal rights activist who founded New York Farm Animal Save. We have Rita Bola, an amazing art, and Kate Squire, who is an amazing vegan singer. And this is like a team now. They're family. They all love everyone here as much as I do. So I just want to make sure everyone gets credit. It's a team effort, and we're really, really lucky. And people are welcome to come learn. By this time next year or earlier, I hope to be a little more up and running because we're in a new space now. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It really is. I really believe, and it really is what the work that sanctuaries do is not simply. It's not just the rescuing of the animals, and it's the care and the very, very dedicated love and hard work they provide day in and day out. It's that potential for becoming educational centers. I mean, for sanctuaries, and that's why I was talking about the support. Of course, the overall support of the mission, but the direct support. And when we say direct support, because through them, they're doing a lot of work. And in fact, they are facing the really have the ugliest aspects of humanity. And by rescuing these animals and then seeing what they go through and learn what they go through day in and day out and provide them with hope, which reminds you that humans can be very beautiful. And I think supporting sanctuaries, to me, the whole mission for the project, for the Vegan Stay, of creating this project, and in fact, it goes a lot more than just to the Vegan Stay, and something that will be unfolding in the next few weeks and months. The whole concept is simple, is that these sanctuaries are doing this beautiful work day in and day out. Emil Rich, Rebecca inspired me to become vegan. She's amazing. Yes, I agree. Here you have fans. That's so lovely.
Thank you.
So Rebecca, I was saying that is exactly what, to me, the whole idea is to loosen that burden. And they have contributed so much to this vegan revolution. This vegan revolution needs to recognize them and recognize the animals they care for. And therefore, if you could provide them with those kinds of resources, you could imagine what kind of impact they can make, because their hands are always tied behind their back. So even when people like you are putting a lot of their own money into this, well, but at the end of the day, there are only so many hours in the day, there are only so many resources, and there are only so many things that you can do. You could imagine if there is more, and I would rather see somebody with more money than some random CEO of some company that would be as happy now. I mean, even McDonald's now offers vegan things, not that they care. Right. Why? It's just because it brings some money. It's like business as normal. But I absolutely believe that business can be made into something that is more wholesome and that's more value driven. and they just feel that Sanctuaries has so much to teach and so much to offer, and we're barely scratching the surface. So.
Absolutely. I'd like to tell, and thank you so much for what you're doing with the Vegan Stay. I think it's beautiful, because I do think traveling as a vegan, I don't get to do it anymore because of, doing this, but it's really important to have your values be in everything you do. And one of the difficult things about traveling, when I used to do it more as an artist, was connecting to community and finding vegan, food and a vegan place to stay. I think that, and the way you're funneling it back to organizations who can work for change it's an exciting, venture, and you're doing it, you're making it happen. So thank you so much. I want to add one thing to what you said about sanctuaries, which is, technically speaking, we are almost serving as de facto vegan model communities, right? So ideally, when you go to a sanctuary, you're not just seeing an animal rescue, you're seeing a philosophy and an ethic that should carry into how the workers are treated, how the labor is respected and loved, how the environment, what the environmental principles are at the sanctuary, because it is all connected. And so I personally value sanctuaries. Again, the animals are part of a community that is a model community, and we have to represent that with how we treat everyone, and the sort of ethics and equity involved in the workload and how it's spread out and shared. And so people really should visit sanctuaries, because it's about meeting the animals or learning about them, but it's so much more. It's honestly one very critical aspect of changing the world and remodeling it. What can it look at? What can it look like? What can we do in this setting to create a sense of peace and healing? For the caregivers, I find caregivers at every animal rescue I've worked at, they are incredibly selfless people. Many of them come to that work through healing of their own trauma. They're traumatized in this world, and they come to do this work very much to make a healing space for themselves too, and that's not a bad thing. We should look like a whole new model society. It shouldn't be business as usual. It shouldn't be capitalism as usual. So, that's something we really want to try to do here. It's a lot of new ground. It's interesting to have a space where we can do stuff.
Absolutely. And I just want to also add that population. So I'm sure there are men in that space. Well, I'm one of them. It's mostly women. It really is, which adds another layer to this sanctuary movement. So it's the animals, but the very brave, very courageous people who take on themselves the care, the education, and the bravery to see human depravity raw day in and day out, and don't even flinch or look away. I had nothing but absolute respect, admiration, and love for people like you, Rebecca. You inspire me. You really do.
There's so many rescues who help so many more than us. We're so small, and that's been frustrating for me. I wish I could receive that praise more gracefully, but we're small, but I still stand by very proudly for what we do. I feel that, I'm glad I didn't let being small keep me from doing anything. There is a danger of developing kind of a saint complex doing this work too. I'm very careful. I'm very careful about that. I think literally we're just doing kind of the right thing, and that I appreciate your kind words immensely, but I'm really more interest in people realizing it's not a saint who does this work. It's just an ordinary people. You have it in your heart to help someone. I just want to encourage people to do it. And don't think twice, just find a way. You have an apartment in New York City, there's small animals in need of rescue, there's always someone you can help with what you've got. So
yeah, I will not take my words away. I'm going to actually add on top of that. Now I'm not going to. But I really do. It's something that really inspires me. It's courage that I like to point to. But not just that. Now to hear you respond the way you responded, then I'm realizing. No, I'm just realizing the level of self-awareness and humility. The level of self-awareness, humility, and it just shows me where your heart is. And it's yes, because sometimes you're even surprised when people surprised at what you do. To you, this is what looks natural. It is what is natural. This is what is supposed to. And I think having the integrity to sort of stand for your values is something that could benefit all of us. And yeah, but I absolutely admire your desire to take feedback, but also to remain humble and grounded. It's well, the more okay, I'm gonna go back and give you more praise.
I'm turning red, and and actually, it's a nice counterpoint to what I experience a lot of time, which is sort of feeling mocked and misunderstood for rescuing chickens. So please know I really appreciate your words, because there is that other side of it that we didn't really get into, but people don't get why I do this. I gave up a whole nother, pretty, 3-decade career in the arts in the city. And I know that there's people that don't understand why. And I've had to make my peace with that of like, I try to educate them, but it's just follow your heart.
Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Eventually, humanity will catch up, or humanity will be no more. So, Rebecca, before we close today, we are very close to the end, and I really look forward to doing this with you again, hopefully in sometime 2024, and maybe later in the year. I would love to do this again, so we can visit with the animals and also just revisit with each other and see how far we have come in those months. For now, before we close, I would love to hear some final words from you. But what would you like to tell people listening to us live, or our listeners who will be listening to us in the recording? I just want to mention that quite a few people have stopped by today. So very grateful.
I don't have my glasses, so
yeah, there were quite a few people who came for different parts of the program. Yeah, it was a very lovely turnout.
Well, I guess, parting words. I'm really honored to get to talk about this work, because all the different animals, we're animals that we share this planet with, are, for us to discredit them and as unintelligent or lesser intelligence, of lesser feeling, of lesser rights, is truly heartbreaking and wrong. And that is speciesism. It's arbitrary. It is antiquated education. It's indoctrination. Obviously, all the life we share this planet with is connected. And obviously, all the life we share this planet with has to be in balance. So there has to be equity, there has to be appreciation, because literally the climate crisis is about to be kind of a big tower of dominoes falling down. If we don't understand the health of our oceans, if we don't understand avians' role in pollination as well as insects, if we're not going to follow the science and understand that we really can't give, 75% of the Earth's surface up to farming animals, we are literally burning the ground under our feet, as many people have pointed out. But also, as a culture, it's clear that we're ailing, and it's clear that there's a lot more violence than I think I think many people are shocked to see. Most of us who know about, understand the slaughterhouse system and understand, you know, the Jim Crow being the basis for today's prison and so-called justice system. People who have like done their homework understand that all these structures are deeply disturbing. So one of the most powerful things I would love people to do is question everything. Question everything, not like some conspiracy theorist and get unhinged, but read the science, learn, go, you know, work to become the most critical thinker you possibly can. Because we're definitely in times where all the values we claim to have and all the things we claim to stand for, our ability to not be that authentic thing this is the last chapter of that book. Like it's already too late. We have to authentically be the loving, nonviolent, caring, empathetic beings we say we are. It can't be just a label on a package anymore. And this is going to take real deep self-introspection. It's going to take a fearlessness for every single one of us to change, including myself. Always change, always try to learn more. Because the future of this planet depends on it. And there's a lot of real beauty here that we should be protecting. So I guess that's a mouthful, but being kind to animals is a very basic part of this. It's not the complicated part. This is the violence against non-humans has to absolutely stop as part of this evolution.
Absolutely. I don't think it's a mouthful at all. I think it's very beautifully well said and articulated. And I just second that before we part ways for today. Is animal sanctuaries, they hold a very special place in my heart and in my thinking. They are an antidote to the ethic of might is right, that started slowly evolving over the last 10,000 years and then eventually corrupted our very institutions, whether they are religious, secular, political, and you call it. All of them, it does no distinction. This ethic of domination over animals have been institutionalized so profoundly that people don't question it, or sometimes it looks as natural to people as water looks to fish. The difference is that a fish will die outside of the water. Human being outside of that system of oppression to which we have become blind is a much more abundant life, and I think sanctuaries are pointing us to that way, to that place where we could live in harmony with the rest of life around us. I just would like to remind our listeners, listen to us or to the recording, that this is Rebecca Moore, the founder of Institute for Animal Happiness, and Institute for Animal Happiness, and well, humans are part of that. So in fact, both
animals.
the official name. So it was very, very lovely talking to Rebecca. Please give Rebecca a follow. Join the social media. You see it on top, Institute for Animal Happiness. Join them on social, follow them on Facebook, on Instagram, and please, if you are not following us, follow us on the Vegan Stay. And please stay tuned. There will be some major updates about our work with sanctuaries and our work at the Vegan Stay and the way we are evolving this particular organization and how we envision partnering with sanctuaries and empowering them to do the very, very important and vital work that they do. Rebecca, it was so lovely talking with you as usual. Looking forward to being in touch with you again very, very soon.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody who listened in. This was my first Instagram Live. I really enjoyed it.
We are very honored that you gave us a chance. And Tails, I'm trying to read the names going fast. Tails Conifer says thank you. You're very welcome, and thank you. And then Amy Rich says thank you. And we really look forward to more lives. Please join us on the Vegan Stay. So you'd be attuned both with on our work with all the sanctuaries that we partner and we work with. And Rebecca, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and then we will be in touch very, very soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. I look forward to following you. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Bye, Rebecca. Bye, everybody. Bye.